welcome to the DIY in VR channel. This is Mr. S. This video is brought to you by everestmodel.com, the best scale modeling website in the world. For a better viewing experience, please put on your VR headset. Today we are going to build the Tamiya 124 Nissan Skyline. This car has been sold at auction at more than $800,000. The kit has a very limited number of parts, so I'm going to show you the most efficient way to build a scale model. So since there are not so many parts, I'm going to cut all the parts with a nipper. I'm going to airbrush them, brush paint them, and even toothpick paint them. And I'm going to do it color by color. And finally, I'm going to build everything in one go like a Lego. So let's get started. As I said before, I cut every single part from every single sprue with a nipper. The problem with cutting all the parts is that you don't have the parts number anymore. Since there are not so many parts, I don't have that fear. For each part, I decided which color I want to airbrush them. Then I classified all the parts that should be airbrushed to the same color in a same plastic bag. For example, this bag should be painted in XF16 aluminum. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I chose which color to airbrush each part. I'm going to show you the rationale. So I opened the manual for the Nissan Skyline. So here is the first step. So for each part, I'm going to decide one color to airbrush. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's take the example of this. So there's only one color, which is X18. So there's no reflection here. It's only X18. So this is done. So I'm gonna write on Excel. So what I have to airbrush is X18. Okay. Then this one is more interesting. So there are two colors. There are X18 and XF1. The thing is, it's going to be super easy to brush paint the XF1, right? So it's easier to airbrush the whole thing X18, and then for the little details, I'm going to brush paint it in XF1. So this one is going to be X18 again. So I already wrote it. Here, for the brake disc, so there are three colors, more complicated. So X11, X18, and X12. So you can see that the X18 and the X12 are protruding from the brake disc, right? So it's gonna be easy to airbrush the whole thing in X11. Then brush paint the X18 and X12 because they're protruding, and it's very easy to brush paint everything that is protruding. So yeah, so this one X18, this one X18, and this one X11. So X11 a new color. So I'm gonna write X11. Okay. So I went ahead and did it for every single part. And at the end, I arrived at something like 5 colors at the end. Before painting, I still have to do some assembly work. I used a scriber to deepen the panel lines from the car body. I also glued the front and rear bumper to the body because they should be painted in the body color. Now we can start to prime and paint the body. For personal protection, I'm wearing a glove on my left hand. Here is the face mask. And I also have my paint booth. I also have this Tamiya paint stand that is a must-have if you do a lot of cars. Now we can shake the primer and prime. Notice that I'm spraying short bursts to the model. When you're using a spray can, remember that you should never spray continuously. You're going to spray too much paint and it's going to drip everywhere. The primer is going to reveal any defect of the car body. I didn't see any problem, so let's paint the real color of the body. As usual, we shake the spray can And we continue with short bursts. The chassis should also be painted the same color as the body color. The last piece to be painted the body color is the rear aileron. And I use the paint stand and the clip to let the parts dry. Here is the end result for the body color. The wind is so strong tonight, I thought my table was gonna fly. Now we're gonna deal with the X18 semi-gloss black. The lower half of the front bumper should be painted in the black color. So I masked the upper part with a masking tape. The outline of the window should also be painted in semi-gloss black. And the kit provided some very convenient custom masking tape. Here are the other parts that should be painted in X18 semi-gloss black that I classified in a bag before. Now we can prepare for the paint. I directly poured the paint into the airbrush. I also added the Tamiya acrylic thinner to the airbrush. I'm too lazy to use a pipette, so don't do what I'm doing. Finally, I stirred everything inside the airbrush cup. Now we can airbrush what we masked before. Here is the bumper. Here is the window frame. And I did the same for the other parts. And I put everything on a paint stand to let them dry. And now it's the moment to peel off the masking tape. I think it's the sexiest moment of scale modeling. I'm pretty happy with the result. But can you see the monumental mistake I made? The window frame black color should be masked and painted from the inside, not the outside. Okay, I'm gonna find somewhere to hide myself. Next, I airbrushed the back of the XF16 flat aluminum and I let them dry on a pen stand. Now I did the same with the XF63 German gray, which is mostly the interior color. And here is the X11 chrome silver. After airbrushing, we can start brush painting the details. Let's get back to my computer and I'm going to show you the most efficient way to paintbrush. So we went back to the manual, and if you follow the instruction and paintbrush each color following the order of the instruction, that is not going to be very efficient. Because, for example, here you have to brush paint the XF1 here. Then you have to change color, change to X18. Then you have to change the color to X12. And each time you have to clean your brush, change the color, add the thinner, and that is just not very efficient. So what I do is that I pick one color. Let's say XF1 here is the first one. So I'm going to brush paint everything that is in this model that is XF1, okay? So I'm going to brush paint here, 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 and then I don't see any XF1 on this page. XF1, no, nothing here. Still nothing here. Here you have XF1. Then I brush paint these four. XF1 here and here. And afterwards, I don't think there is any XF1 left. So XF1 is done. Now we can change color, clean your brush, add some retarder. So let's go to the next color. So we're going to do for the X12, for example, X12, and we paint each part that is X12 from the whole model. And this is really more efficient. My personal favorite for brush painting is the Vallejo Model Color series. Unlike Tamiya acrylics, the Model Color series has been designed for brush painting. They work perfectly without any retarder or any other additives. Vallejo has another series called Moto Air that is designed for airbrush. So do not confuse Moto Color, which is for paintbrush, and Moto Air is for airbrush. I also have a tray of water next to me. For acrylic paints, if you wash your tools and paintbrushes right away before it dries, the paint would go off super easily. To brush paint the Tamiya acrylics, I have to add some acrylic retarder to get a smoother finish and avoid brush strokes. Adding retarder is compulsory when you want to paint larger areas. Here's the example with the chassis. Tamiya acrylics has bad coverage when you brush paint it. When you see the coverage of your first layer of paint is bad, don't worry. Let the paint dry and do a second layer. But don't try anything when the paint is still wet. It's gonna make things worse. When your brush painting is not accurate enough and you went over the border, you can always use a toothpick to remove the excess paint. So I went ahead and painted all the parts that should be painted in gold. Here's the paints for chrome silver. Here's the flat aluminum. Another convenient way to paint chrome silver is to use the Molotov chrome pen. If you like our content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can also visit our sponsor's website, everestmodel.com. When the painting process is over, let's do the decals. First, we cut the decals with a pair of scissors. Then we dip the decal into the water. We wait for 30 seconds and take it out with tweezers. And we slide it on the desired area. And we remove the excess water with a cotton bud. Now we cut the mesh to make the engine grill. And we secure it with CA glue. Now let's make the car body shiny. Before polishing, we should varnish the body first. We spray the varnish using an airbrush. Then we should let the varnish dry. You can see on my TV that I went to play FIFA. We can add the Tamiya polishing compound. And we rub the surface in circle. Here I'm gonna add some details to the interior. I'm gonna make the carpet with embossing powder. To glue the powder, I used some white glue or school glue with a paintbrush. Then I sprinkled the embossing powder on the glue. Here is the end result. Now all the details has been done, we can start assembling the car. I thought the assembly process is gonna be a walk in the park. That I would snap the parts in very easily, a little bit like Lego, but that is far from the truth. I'm not saying that Tamiya kit doesn't have good fit, but the parts are not designed to be snapped together. Everything has to be glued together, and there is nothing else that is holding the parts together except the glue. Since I painted before assembly, it is harder to glue painted parts with plastic cement afterwards, because plastic cement best work when there is plastic to plastic contact. Now the plastic cement has to eat through the paint of one part and eat through the paint of the other part, then bond the two parts together. Long story short, I put way more CA glue than I thought I would. Here is something interesting. These two parts were originally in the clear plastic sprue, but the manual told us they should be painted in black. So why did they make it clear? Now I just realized that these two parts are going to cover all the suspension details that we done before. So if you want people to see your suspension work, you can leave them in clear. Now we can snap the chassis into the body. Finally, let's do some weathering. I used a Tamiya panel liner brown to raise the little details on the chassis, and I wiped off the excess with a cotton bud dipped into Tamiya enamel thinner. The Tamiya Weathering Master is super useful too. My favorite one is the D set. The one on the right is the oil stain. I rubbed it against the chassis to make it greasy. Now I declare the Nissan Skyline finished. Okay, let's do a quick review of the product I've been using during this build. So for the assembly, we have the nipper, the God Hand. I recommend the God Hand brand. Then the tweezers and the cement and the CA glue that has been used with the spoon and toothpick. This is the engraver, the scriber from Tamiya to deepen the panel lines. Super important. These two are for the carpet. Very nice effect with embossing powder and white glue. Then for the painting, so we had the primer here. Here we have the body color of the car, and these are all the paints that I use to for airbrushing and brush painting. Here is the interesting chrome paint from Molotov, so it's very good, very convenient to paint chrome parts. So if you want to brush paint the Tamiya acrylic segment, you should add the paint retarder to avoid brush strokes. The acrylic paints should be thin with an acrylic thinner. The varnish we have here we should apply the varnish before polishing. So these are for polishing. These two are for decals. Then we have the painting tools, the airbrush, the paintbrush, compressor, paint booth, cleaning pot, personal protection, super important. Also the gloves, the mask, the paint stand, super convenient if you do a lot of cars. The alligator clips, the paint tray, stir, pipette, the masking tape. So I used the 1 centimeter one. At the end, we have weathering. So we didn't do a lot of weathering. So we just have the wash, the dark brown wash. I removed the excess with enamel thinner because it's enamel based. And the very important Tamiya Weathering Master set Pack D. So you have the grease color, like the like blackish color that I used. So the blue and the brown, like brown rust color, are also super important for pipes. So if you have a pipe that is overheated and is the effect of heat on metal color, so these two are also realistic on the exhaust pipe, for example. So and if you want the exact links of the product I used, I'm gonna put them on everestmodel.com. So see you there. Bye bye.